edition of the...
Are caterpillars going to take over the world? Should Bill Cosby get the prison pop? And something about a real-life British Ironman guy.
All this and more on this edition of the Weekly Bazaar.
Well, welcome everybody to week number 4 of the Weekly Bazaar, and we have Garrett back. Yay!
Yay! Oh.
Where in the shit have you been, sir?
Where in the shit have I been?
Where in the shit have you been?
Well, I have been in New York.
New York, New York.
Although I think the reason why I missed last week though was not because of New York. I did that over the week. I missed you because I had family in town, and yeah, family was more important than you.
Oh, it always is. I mean, an ice cream van turning up on the street is more important than me. I was just checking the figures of last week's Bazaar with Jimmy, and obviously people don't like him because we didn't do very well last week. But, hey,
Really, I'm the hook that brings viewers in.
It's that sexy voice. We mentioned it last week.
Yeah.
You know. And if you guys don't realise now, and you're not wise like us, and you haven't listened to the show before, welcome. Take a seat, relax, and we will guide you through this week's
oral explosion.
The kind of news that we like. Who gives a shit about North and South Korea? Who gives a shit about Donald Trump? Nobody cares. Let's talk about funny stuff. Let's talk about Uranus.
No, Uranus.
No, Uranus. So yeah, a couple of stories just to get you through the week. It's great to have you back, Garrett. And you know what? I always feel bad starting off these things. I think I should let you start this week. I should be a gentleman.
Okay.
Have you back. Okay. So
well,
what have you brought us this week, sir?
Well, first off, it's wonderful to be back. I kind of miss talking to my sexy British bearded man.
Right,
big
less of the sexy,
teddy
right? I know you're being ironic now.
That I just want to squeeze.
As long as you talk to me in that Bane accent, I'm yours, baby.
I want to stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
That was more Gandalf.
Oh yeah,
my stuff.
I want to stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
Okay, I'm there. Okay, now hit me with Uranus.
So I'm gonna hit you with Uranus. So I looked at this. I kind of forgot about looking at articles this week, and luckily this morning I had time set aside in my coffee shop, and I found a couple of articles here on Google News. I'm finding that's actually pretty indispensable source of finding bullshit articles. So the first article is a huge discovery on Uranus stuns scientists.
It's a cyst. I'll keep telling people it's a cyst. They won't listen to me.
So this morning, this article came from the Morning Ticker by a unknown journalist by the name of Dan Taylor, and apparently scientists are still studying Uranus.
Like they should be. Should always check Uranus.
And they've come to the realization and understanding, and apparently this has been suspected for quite some time, but has never been able to conclusively be confirmed, that Uranus smells like ass.
Like ass.
Like ass.
Okay.
Like if you were to go into the atmosphere of the planet Uranus, and fuck you, those who want to say it's pronounced Uranus. Excuse me, but you're pronouncing it wrong, and the proper pronunciation is Uranus. Fuck you, it's Uranus.
We like Uranus.
Uranus is so
sounds
much
good.
more useful.
Uranus is beautiful.
Mm.
Okay, we're being childish now. Let's get on with it.
So Uranus smells like ass, and the reason why Uranus smells like ass is that the upper atmosphere is predominantly composed of hydrogen sulfide. And hydrogen sulfide, to those that are in the know, smells like rotten eggs.
Like a volcano.
It smells like rotten eggs.
Yeah, I thought of volcanoes very rotten eggsy.
Yeah, I think it's just simpler to say it. Most people haven't smelled a volcano, and most people have smelled rotten eggs. Come on now, we're trying to keep this show for the populace and not for the elite that, knows what a volcano smells like.
I like volcanoes. All right, I like volcanoes. Okay, so the Uranus joke that we've been playing throughout this whole episode and throughout all of our lives actually has a bit more substance to it. Literally.
Exactly.
It's like, Uranus smells. No, Uranus smells. Ha 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 ha. Oh, that's great. That's a great little twist on like I said, that joke. So how did they find this out then? How did they? Did they send a probe into Uranus?
No, they were actually looking at Uranus from afar using a very powerful telescope.
It would have to be from afar. My Uranus. Uranus. Oh, fuck's sake.
Oh, man. All right, stop while you're ahead. Okay. So to try to pull this out of the gutter a little bit,
okay.
The scientists used a near-infrared field spectrometer, NIFC, that is located. It's one of the instruments that's attached to the Gemini North Telescope that's in Hawaii.
Okay.
Mauna Loa, I think, is the name of the mountain that it's on top of.
Okay.
And for some reason I didn't think to add the name of the actual location of where this telescope was, but you can look up the Gemini North Telescope and I'm sure you'll find out more than you ever cared about this telescope.
Is that the one that's is it called Diamond Head normally in Honolulu?
No, it's on Mauna Loa.
Is that an island or is that a mountain? That's a mountain.
That's a mountain.
Okay.
The mountain of Mauna. I think Mauna Loa is located on the island called Hawaii, the big island.
The main island.
The main island. But yeah, this telescope's pretty damn impressive. I would like, if I had more time, I'd like to delve in a little bit more deeper on the technical aspects of this thing, technical specs, because it's the mirror is 8 meters in diameter. It's a big fucking telescope.
That's
and
crazy.
To those that are, too stupid to know what 8 meters is, that's 26 feet.
And reverse spectrums are fascinating. I mean, I've watched Brian Cox before. I get the gist of what it is. They basically, when you look through a lens and you see that rainbow, each color has a code, which means there is a certain element in that rainbow. So the rainbow that you get in our spectrum is what's giving off our sun, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, if you look at the sun through a spectrometer, then you will see all the colors, all the everything comes out.
Yeah. So they can pretty much look at any star and planet through a reverse spectrometer or spectrum. I don't know the exact word for it. They're probably looking at the right time.
Well, they used a near infrared field spectrometer. That's the name of it.
I was kind of right. And they've managed to work out what gases are on there. So, and then from that, they've deduced that Uranus smells like
rotten egg. Yeah. And what's funny is predominantly the main portions, the main consistencies of the atmosphere are other gases. I think it's hydrogen, helium, nitrogen. I think it's in there. Methane, lots of methane.
Okay. It's a gas giant though, isn't it?
It is a gas giant. But
land on it.
what's even more speak, motherfucker. English. Do you speak it? What's almost childishly funny about this is that the hydrogen sulfide is in the clouds. So basically there's a bunch of fart clouds in the upper atmosphere that consists of this, rotten egg gas smelling funk, if you will.
It's like that scene out of the Nutty Professor 2, where they're all farting at the table. They've just been doing that for the last 20 years, and they've filled up the atmosphere.
And I took a quote from the article. So they said that hydrogen sulfide, the gas that gives rotten eggs their distinctive odor, permeates the upper atmosphere of the planet Uranus, as has been long debated but never definitively proven. Because, scientists have lots of time on their hands to debate shit like this. But based on the sensitive spectroscopic observations with the Gemini North Telescope, astronomers uncovered the noxious gas swirling high in the planet's cloud tops. This result resolved the stubborn, long-standing mystery of one of our neighbors in space. So now we know why our neighbor smells like ass.
You know where this has come from, right? Don't you? So they're having a conversation in the office at NASA, and they've pulled a guy in for hygiene purposes, and they were like, "Listen, this is really difficult for us to talk about, but we need to speak to you about this. We're a professional business, but Uranus smells." And he's gone, "You can't prove that, man. You can't prove that." And he's gone nuts, and he's like, "You can't prove that my anus smells like..." And they're like, no. He storms out, and then he ends up doing a huge case file and lots of experiments to prove that, and he proved himself that his anus does actually smell. That was awful.
Well,
but great story. I love a bit of the planet talk.
So there's your weekly science. I think in the future I should be our resident science expert. So I'll always try to pick some sort of interesting topic in science.
Well, you're an engineer, and you're going to dig this next subject. So, one of the first stories that came up to me was about a guy that was, he's now dubbed as the Iron Man of Wiltshire. And he has created, his name is Richard Browning, and he has created an Iron Man propulsion system with jets. He can fly. I've seen a video of it. He can actually do. It's not a hoax. He did a TED talk at TED conference. TED, they do podcasts. I'm sure you know that.
TED
and
Talk.
he did. He lifted off from Vancouver Harbour, and he was just flying around like Tony Stark does when he's practicing getting the Iron Man suit together. And this looks amazing. Absolutely looks amazing. He's got 4 jets around him. And he can just move wherever he points the jets. And they're attached to an exoskeleton. It's amazing. And this led to the Ministry of Defence offering him an £800 million scheme to, improve the defence of...
Contract.
Contract. How cool is that? We're so close to having Iron Man suits.
So that's in contrast to the French guy that has the it's kind of like a glider that he straps on the back of him, and he jumps out of a helicopter, and after he jumps out of the helicopter he turns on 4 jet engines, and he can basically fly around like a jet fighter.
Yeah, but that guy's old news, man. He was on Top Gear, right? He was on Top Gear.
He was on Top Gear, yeah, but
we talked about this before the show.
He's updated his device, I guess we can call it a device. Since then, he can now fly up. He can climb again, because I think when he did it in Top Gear, he could only kind of fall gracefully.
Yeah, and imagine them two put together. Them two should get together definitely and be like, "Yo, bro, I got this idea," and he'd be like, "Yeah, I got this idea too." So you could have jets on his legs and jets on a wing thing like that French guy has, and there we go. We've got fucking human missiles.
Yeah, and you can get it to the point where you don't need to jump out of a helicopter. I imagine this guy with the exosuit, he probably has an issue with sustained flight.
There is He's standing on the ground. I'll show the video,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, "I'll show you now." And he turns it on, and he literally just goes. He doesn't go very far. He kind of hovers off the floor, but he does move. He does move around, but he doesn't go flying through the air.
How high? I mean, he's obviously really high when he's doing this, but how high does he get?
Let me find the video. Okay.
See, this is a testament to how professional this podcast is. We don't have anything queued up.
Why is it taking me here? I don't want to go there. Okay, I've got a video up here.
He's been dubbed the real-life Iron Man.
You can screen share. I know our viewers can't see this, but I would like to see it. Oh, it's on your phone. Oh yeah, he looks more like War Machine though. He's a lot more bulky.
Let me show you the beginning.
Okay, so he's only flying a couple feet off the air or off the ground.
Yeah, but it's a start, isn't it? Imagine like he does look a bit dokey, doesn't he?
I like the jetpack Rocket Man or the glider pack Rocket Man better.
But like I said, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, I could imagine if you combined both their things, then you could take out. So this guy seems to have an issue with sustained flight, like actually like zooming around and flying around like actual Iron Man does. This guy looks like he can hover a little bit and maybe get some altitude with that hovering ability. And then he leans forward and the glider comes out. And then he's rocketing around. So this kind of solves the French guy's problem in that he has to use a helicopter to get in the air.
Imagine that. Happy, fire up the chopper.
And when he wants to land, he has to use a parachute. Yeah. So he shuts off the engines, falls, and reduces speed to a point where he can safely let off his parachute, where this allows him to take off and land without the use of any other type of device. He'll be completely jet powered.
And you couldn't exactly fly this through a busy high street, could you? You'd be blowing tables over at cafes, knocking old ladies over, and killing cats, frying them to death. Oh
God!
It wouldn't be very safe.
No, not at all.
No. There's a long way to go, but we've got a British guy making an Iron Man suit, and I'm pleased about that.
Yeah, I think it's really starting to come out that you don't care about the other guy just because he's French. You keep making a point that it's a British guy that's doing this. So the fact that it's a British guy means that even though he can't do as much as the French dude, he's British, so he's obviously better.
It's not that this guy's British, and I care more that he's British. We don't like the other guy because he's French. I shouldn't say that. My wife's half French. I do poke her with a stick about that. But no, any advancement like this in technology, I'm always up for. I'm a science fiction geek. Like the idea of, but the idea I thought about this was, imagine like four guys grabbing the corner of a car, hooking it to the back, sort of, and then just picking up a car and just taking it. You must be able to pick up some weight with those jets.
I imagine as the efficiency of the jets increase with the size that they're at, because right now the amount of thrust that a jet can get is proportional to the amount of air that it can intake, and you've got a limit to how much air you can intake at certain RPMs that are safe for somebody to be strapped to at that size. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, onwards and upwards, literally. You see what I did there? Yeah. Oh, cheeky. Okay, so moving on from British Iron Man, let's talk about another one of your. Let's talk about one of your stories. Let's go.
Okay, so I've only got 2 stories this time around, but this one might be a little lengthy and a little triggering for some. I know. I'm going to preface this in that, I will not shed a tear for the fact that Bill Cosby got convicted of...
Again.
Well, no, this is the first time he got convicted.
Okay.
I'm not going to shed a tear. This guy deserves to be in prison. He deserves to be away from the ability to victimize anymore.
He was quite ruthless about it all as well. I remember. I mean, like over in the UK, we get the news and we hear about it and stuff like that. But ultimately, we don't give a shit. Like, it's Bill Cosby. But over in America, it's obviously really important to you guys.
Well,
You
yeah,
guys
I mean, people have likened him. I never thought him of this. I mean, I remember watching The Cosby Show as a kid, when there was nothing else on TV. I was never a real fan of him. I think my parent, or at least my mom, I think used to like to watch the shit kids say, or the stuff that kids say, or whatever that name of the show was, that he used to do after The Cosby Show. But and I guess if you take a large population sample of America, a lot of Americans will say that he used to be considered America's dad, end quotes. But one thing that let me get to the title of this article. The title of the article, or the headline, as you will, Bill Cosby's conviction may change defense tactics in the #MeToo era. So this was an article that I pulled off the Hollywood Reporter, and it was by Ashley Cullen. So a woman wrote this, at least I think, because yes, I guess Ashley could be a guy's name, but I'm assuming it's a woman. Sue me. Wait, don't sue me.
Let's not assume, darling.
But it's something that has been in the news, at least in the States, for the past couple of days. This actually happened. I found out about this when I was flying back from New York. But Bill Cosby was tried again, because the first time he was tried, it was found to be a mistrial for his assault against this woman by the name of Constance.
That's where I got confused earlier. I thought he'd actually done time.
No. So back in 2005, a civil lawsuit was brought against him by this woman, for drugging her and sexually assaulting her while she was drugged. And I'm going a little out of order from the way the article presents things. So let me scroll through my notes. Okay, so he paid $3.4 million in a settlement for the civil lawsuit, and in this lawsuit, he gave a deposition, and in the deposition, he admitted to using drugs to have sexual intercourse with women.
What a douche! What a fucking douche! Though.
But part of the deal of this whole thing was that this civil case, once he paid out, was going to be sealed, and there was a clause in it that was a not to prosecute agreement. So in accepting the $3.4 million, she wasn't supposed to bring a criminal complaint against him. She was supposed to take the money and live on in her life.
But isn't that obstruction of justice? You're supposed to, if somebody's committed a crime,
it was handled in the U.S. laws. If it's brought up as a civil agreement, or a civil case, and an agreement is made, and you have these clauses in the agreement, and it's signed by both parties, then that's legally binding.
Wow. Okay.
So flash forward to the present, and she comes out to I can't remember if she came out or if a prosecutor found out about it and then pursued it on his own, but it led to him being tried for this case because this case didn't fall in the statute of limitations. It wasn't too old to try. Okay. So this happens because, before this, I think 60 or 70 women in total have come out saying that Bill Cosby drugged and raped them.
That's just, what a monster.
I mean,
You know,
he's
if
been
it is
doing
that
this
amount.
for decades. I mean, just decades. So it's fucking sick. But all of these complaints happened in times, you know, that statute of limitations applied. So they couldn't, even if they could, I mean, even if there was enough, you know, physical evidence and enough to, you know, try him, because it had taken them so long to file a complaint. The law has, you know, some protections, I guess you could call them, to keep people from that after, you know, a certain amount of time, you can't try them for that crime. You have X amount of time to do it, otherwise you lose your chance. So he finally gets this. This case finally comes up, and it's inside the time to, like, he can still be prosecuted legally. Yeah. But a lot of this information, like the sealed deposition, was not admissible in court. A bunch of the witnesses that came to testify him again in the second trial, those weren't part of the trial, and it led to a mistrial. The jury couldn't unanimously agree that he was guilty.
Okay.
And then after that mistrial, you get a whole stream of more Hollywood douchebags coming out, being, you know, pulled out of the shadows, if you will, and exposed for the fucking assholes. Yeah,
Monster.
I mean, assholes.
There's no words.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the biggest names being Harvey Weinstein. And I think it was Harvey Weinstein's allegations that really started to spur this #MeToo movement.
It was him and Kevin Spacey and all them people that got caught up in that, yeah.
Yep. And then you have this #MeToo, and you've got this, you know, huge public, like, I guess, lack of a better word, mob that's just out to hang anybody that gets close to being accused of, you know, sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexual discrimination, what have you.
That was brought up as like one of the dangers of this Me Too movement thing. Is, of course, it's great that people are coming forward with, you know, if they've been abused, they have the right to defend themselves, you know, or to bring their attackers to justice. But then there have been people that have been caught out to be lying and things, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's very difficult. You still have to have this impartial, fact-based process to, you know, process these allegations and make sure that the guilty, you know, get their due, and the innocent are protected from mob mentality.
So he's been found guilty then.
Finally. So he's been found. So this second trial happened after this whole Me Too thing, and there's questions as to whether this #Me Too thing influenced the judge to allow evidence that is questionably admissible, questionably legally viable to be put forth against you in a court of law. He's now allowed 5 former or past, I don't know what's the best way, 5 women that have had their separate incidences with Cosby got to testify about their experience with Cosby in relation to this, to kind of get this is a bad guy, you know, vibe in the courtroom. Like,
it's almost like a trial and execution. It's like
they're
out to get him.
Yeah. In order to convict him of one crime, they're bringing in a bunch of other people that basically just have reason to talk and demonize this guy, which he should be. But in a due process court of law, shit like that's not normally allowed to be used against you.
So was this done with
only the
jury,
hardcore facts with the case pertaining are allowed to be brought up in court. And then also they unsealed the civil disagreement and violated the do not prosecute, which is any smart defense lawyer is going to look at that and be like, okay, this is a no-brainer appeals case. So, I mean, there's a good chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I fucking hope it doesn't happen, because yes, I mean, even though the evidence that was used to convict this guy was illegally obtained, shows that he needs to go to prison for the rest of his fucking life and be completely, stripped of all rights and privileges of being, quote unquote, America's dad.
Well, yeah,
it doesn't change the fact that a lot of the evidence that was used against him was questionably legal to be used against him.
But do we care?
And it was, but the thing is do you care? That's dangerous, because you should care, because the reason why this was made legal was to appease a mob. And I'm not saying that there's not justification behind that mob, but you can't let mob mentality seep its way into the court system.
I'm glad even if it's for a short while they. I mean, how long was he given?
He hasn't been sentenced yet.
He hasn't been sentenced.
So
do you reckon he's going to get a proper sentence, or do you reckon they're going to do the whole Miley Cyrus?
We'll see. We'll see. But I mean, he's facing 30 years, and at his age, 30 years is his life.
Yeah. But he's had the rest of his life in fucking luxury, hasn't he? So
yeah, I mean, but the main point is, I'm not saying that it's wrong that he got convicted. It's that, because I mean it's pretty much a no-brainer. I mean, it's basically out of his mouth that he's done this. But it makes me really worry about how partial our legal system can maintain with this new movement of mob trial by mob.
But the thing is, right, and it's not just I'm not just talking about America here. I'm talking about the UK. I'm talking about anyone that's where money's involved. Like the court system has its arm twisted already. So whether it's a mob mentality or whether it's Nigella Lawson getting away with drugs charges because it's Nigella Lawson and she was in a violent relationship, that makes it okay, and she's got lots of money. Whether it's Lindsay Lohan, look at all the shit that she did. I did a show recently about her, and I managed to research all of the information on everything that she had done, and that woman should have gone away for years. I mean, years, for everything that she did.
Yeah.
And why is she not in prison? It's nothing to do that she has money, right? Look at Oscar Pistorius. It's a manslaughter case. Is he in prison now? He's in prison, isn't he, Oscar? Or is it house arrest?
I don't know.
Welcome to the Weekly Bazaar, where we have all the facts. But
hey,
no,
at least I'm humble enough to say I don't know.
So my point is, whether it's mob mentality, which I totally agree with you, by the way, because I hate that. I hate that, that can happen.
I hate trendy movements. I just feel like it's a trendy movement. I want something to stick. I want something to be less emotionally, motivated, and be more, rationally motivated.
The whole Harvey Weinstein thing has been going on for decades.
I know.
Have been saying outright, people knew what was going on.
I know, and that's because it wasn't trendy to do anything about it. Now it's all of a sudden been trendy, and I don't like the fact that it had to become trendy.
Yeah.
Because
that goes to show the state of the world's, criminal justice system, whatever you want to call it, And we're not just talking, like I said, we're not just talking about America. We're talking about everywhere around the world. Where fame and fortune is concerned, you can get away with almost anything, and that's been pretty.
And that needs to stop. But it needs to stop not because it's fashionable to stop these people, but I mean there needs to be a huge shift in public thought and public rationalization that will, permanently keep this from happening, keep this culture out of these industries of this what is it, what is it that people call it, this patriarchal, fight the patriarchy, but you don't fight the patriarchy because it's hip to fight it now. Fight it because it's a legitimate thing that needs to be, that we can now be aware of. We can now have dialogue about it, and we can now form long-lasting rational policy to minimize it in the future.
Yes, of course.
So, I mean, it's not, I know this is a really touchy subject. There's a lot of people out there that are, balls deep into this Me Too emotionalism.
But
but let me finish my point. We need to get out of that emotionalism, and we need to consistently keep this dialogue open. Yeah, you got to be able to have people like me and others that aren't going to just hop on the hashtag bandwagon and have, a slightly dissenting opinion on this on this issue. Not to the point, I'm not descending to the point where I don't think this guy should have been convicted, but I think I think his conviction should have come about in a little bit more traditional sense, and not traditional, more, less trying to have a judge be politically correct. I think that was one of the things that was brought up in this article, that this judge allowed a lot of this stuff into the court so that he could appear to be this pro hashtag movement guy. And, potentially if he's an elected official, he won't be attacked. That it wouldn't be political suicide. He wanted to make sure that this guy got convicted, and he was going to do everything in his power to do that. And I think he cut too many corners to do that. I feel like
it's either he did it right, but with obviously the points that you brought across.
He did a good thing in a bad way, I feel.
Yeah. No, the people that dealt with it beforehand dealt with it the wrong way. In that, he should have been at least remanded while they dealt with this. I think if he's deemed a threat to society, he should have been remanded and taken away from public.
Yeah.
And what I was talking about at the beginning of this story was about how ruthless he's actually been about it. He's been led away from court. I think it was about 3 months ago, and everybody's snapping pictures of him, paparazzi everywhere. And instead of looking remorseful or looking sad, he just turns to the cameras and he's like, hey. And what the? He actually did this. Like Bill Cosby's hey-haying at the paparazzis for taking a picture of him after he's coming out of a rape court case.
Yeah, it's sick. It's absolutely sick. And I feel like we finally got to see him respond, or at least get the look. I don't know if you've seen video of him when he came out of the trial after being out of the courtroom after being convicted, but he just looked like, I mean, it was sweet, victory. It was a sweet feeling of victory to see how demoralized he looked.
So he should be.
Yes.
Is it wrong for us to say that we hope he gets kind of fondled a bit in jail? Or is that too mean? Because he's ruined women's lives. He's ruined people's lives,
I know, and he deserves to have his life ruined. But we my biggest thing in pointing this out and picking this article up was just that, don't let your emotions fucking guide important decisions. Don't let your hate, don't seek vengeance.
It's not a DC movie.
Yeah. When shit like this happens, be fucking Batman. If anything, this is when we need to channel our inner Batman the most.
Yeah. chop his fucking dick off, and then ask the questions later. We'll chop his dick off.
No, not the
it?
DCU Batman. EU, but the old school Batman that went and did all of his detective work and did his due diligence and then brought the criminal in for justice.
Where is she? Where was she? What did you put in her drink? Okay, well, we had to talk about that. It was relevant. I mean, we don't always talk about the relevant news on this show because, we like to talk about the fun things. But it's Bill Cosby, man. We had to bring it up.
It had to be brought up, and I felt like I had to not play devil's advocate, if you will, but I had to. I wanted to make sure that I could, at least in my arrogant, thinking that this podcast is going to reach millions of people and feel like they needed to hear my opinion on this. But I just really, I always want to be known for a voice of reason.
Yeah. And I feel you on the whole Me Too thing, because it shouldn't exist. There shouldn't be a Me Too movement.
It should never have had to existed.
Exactly. It should have been like Harvey Weinstein should have been arrested the moment he put his hand on a woman's ass, or fined, or told that was wrong. And the same as Bill Cosby all those years ago. He shouldn't have carried on making TV. He shouldn't have been the father of Britain or UK, the father of the US, or that America's dad.
America's dad.
Because people know about this shit. They knew it as it was happening.
Yeah.
And this, it's the same with the BBC with fucking whatchamacallit, Jim, what's his name? Fucking Jimmy Savile. They were like, they knew he was a bit of a monster, and yet they were still inviting kids back to his dressing room and stuff. It's fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yep.
Let's stop talking about
onwards and forwards.
I hope that Bill Cosby chokes on a dick. Let's move on. I wanted to talk about. I've got two more subjects to talk about, but one of them is.
All right, we're at 42 minutes. Just
42 minutes. Very quickly, if I was to ask you how old a dog was when it was a year old to our year, how old would you say?
7.
7 years. So that's been disclaimed. That 7-year rule is been coming. That we've been doing that since the 1200s, and science has brought us an actual number on how old a dog is when it is 1 year old.
It's based off of breed now, isn't it?
It's done off breed and dog size, of breed size, should I say? And
at least it's not based off of dick size.
Well, it kind of is, because like a smaller breed of dog apparently matures very quickly.
Oh, I guess I'm gonna live longer then.
Okay, so in a year of a dog's life, it becomes sexually active. In a year of our lives, we definitely do not. Right? Which is
at least we hope not.
To reach an age of sexual maturity, a dog must age quicker.
Mm-hmm.
This is the theory behind it. Now, if kids could have sex when they were 7 years old, we'd have fucking problems. So
we do in certain parts of this world do have problems like that.
Well, yeah, they do. But, And
sorry, I'm just going to be the downer for the rest of this episode.
He's all fucking Bill Cosby's killed me, man. So a dog is 15 years old when it's 1, and that's crazy. So it's almost double the age of what you think it was. But then it slows down as it gets older. It's crazy like that.
So it ages 15 human years from day 1 to year 1.
Yeah, so the first human year of a dog's life, a large breed is 14 years old, like a giant breed, and a small breed is 15 years old. That's how old they actually are compared to us. And then in the second year, it goes up to 23 years old. In the second year of a dog's life, he's 23 years old. And then it slows right down. It gets to, I think it is 5 years old, and then it starts going up every 4 years. So then every year is 4 years to the dog, because it's done everything it needs to do really quickly.
Okay.
It's matured sexually and maturity and stuff, and then it's just kind of it's done what it needs to do.
The rest is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, so all you motherfuckers that are like, oh, my dog, oh, he's 3 years old, 21-year-old, glad, give him a beer, come on. And then when they're like 5, you're like, blah. You're full of shit. Okay, get a graph, look at this, and educate yourselves. Yeah, so 15 years in the first year of your dog's life. That's how old he is when he's a year old.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. I think I have bettered my life just now by finally understanding that.
I think you've aged 15 years. Okay, now what? From the intro, I talked to you guys about an invasion of caterpillars.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were ever going to get to that.
Oh, this is great.
You built it up so much.
Okay, so London is being invaded by a toxic caterpillar that can cause catastrophic asthma attacks, vomiting, and skin rashes. I saw the article and I didn't read it properly. I didn't realize it's in fucking London.
Sounds like it sounds like it's another attack by Russia.
Yeah. We send you the caterpillars and you die with the choking and the coughing and the sicking.
I don't know if that was Russian. That sounded more
Spanish.
either Spanish or like Greek.
Oh god, I've had too much coffee. Okay, so these the moths of which these caterpillars are
Turn into.
these caterpillars turn into
Metamorphosize into.
let me try this word because I tried it about 8 times before this. The oak processionary moth. There you go. Or in shorthand, OPM, which is we all know heaven is a half pipe. Remember that song? I die before I wait.
All right, file that.
At least
File
in
it.
heaven I can skate.
Okay,
Just
file
right now.
it. No, file it. File
Okay.
that deep in your filing cabinet.
OPM are great. Anyway, so this is apparently the one of the biggest infestations of this that we've known, and it's up in Greater London. So if you're in London, if you're a London, watch out for these little bastards, because if you've got asthma, these guys gonna fuck you right up.
Has anybody died yet?
No, people have become violently sick. One gardener was clearing an overgrown allotment, unaware that an oak tree above her was infested with OPM. That does not read like there's a caterpillar
Infested with opium, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm sure she was choking on something. She said that she suffered severe symptoms after coming into contact with the species. It sounds like an alien race. My first symptom was a rash on my tummy. I was unaware of what it was and thought at first it was heat rash. During this time, I had spells of feeling violently sick. I thought I might have shingles.
Oh, God.
Oh,
All
God.
from a fucking butterfly.
Okay, so this woman's... She sounds like she's fucking dying. You've got a rash. Just calm down. Okay, precautions to minimize health risk. Oh, these are stupid. 1, do not touch, approach nests or caterpillars. That's an actual fucking...
So is there a distinctive, like, physical trait that would allow you to identify that this is a no-go caterpillar?
Okay, so when...
And is it just when they're a caterpillar, or is it when they're a moth, or is it when they're in both phases of life?
Wow, they're actually quite... I've never seen anything like this in the UK. If I saw this, I'd probably freak out. The caterpillar of the oak processionary moth has about 62,000 toxic hairs. So it just looks like a long, hairy thing that's wandering around. And we don't get shit like that in the UK. So even if something like that's quite a,
Okay.
Common in the US or whatever, we don't see stuff like that.
So if you see a hairy penis bug, then run away.
Then run away! Call the Ghostbusters. I read this story and I actually thought we were all going to die. Turns out that people have got hairy caterpillars and they're thick as fuck, and they just don't know how to deal with it. You imagine that, like you see a caterpillar walking across a log or something as you're on your way to work, and
Oh
you're
my
like,
God, Kirk. Sorry. I don't know. Can you see this?
yeah, you've got a hairy caterpillar on your chest right now. And this is the thing, right? You know, if you've got asthma, then don't go near hairy caterpillars.
Yeah.
That's
Don't
it.
do it. I mean, even if you don't, it just seems like hairy caterpillars aren't a thing in Britain. And if you see one, keep your distance. Because obviously Britain doesn't like new things coming into its country anymore.
No, it doesn't. And you know what? If you don't know how to deal with this situation, and you are highly allergic, you do have asthma, and you're panicking, and you feel like you have to write something online, or get in touch with the BBC in this woman's case, then please pick up the caterpillar and swallow the fucking thing, because we don't need you in the gene pool. And move on. Fucking hell! I got this story, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be dire. This story, what's going on? What a load of shit, right? But yeah, we're going to end on that one because
Sounds like a good place to end.
it does sound like a good place for them before I get myself into trouble.
Yeah.
That's not. That is
Next
not
week,
good.
Bizarre Weekly on location in Guantanamo Bay.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, listen, Garrett. Great to have you back, and
Great
thanks
to be
for
back.
joining me again. And you know, we'll come back next week and do this thing. Hold on, when do we record? What's the day today? Saturday. Yeah, I'll be fine. I'm going on holiday, see, so I need to try and work out where I'm going to be and what have you.
All right, no worries.
Thank you very much for joining me, Garrett.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
An absolute pleasure. We're going to sign off. Peace out, guys.
Peace.